Hi, everyone, and welcome back to week 6 of our Autumn Wonders Sew Along hosted by Pat Sloan, of course, at her website, ilovetomakequilts.com. This week, we want to know what activities you get up to over the fall. Tell us when you share your completed block at Pat's Facebook group, Quilt Along with Pat Sloan. If you haven't done so already, grab your pattern, grab your fabric, come with me, and I'll show you how I do it. Where do I begin? Well, I begin with not singing, but each and every week we begin with having all of our pieces and parts cut out as per the directions or the pattern, whichever one you want to use. This week we are making a churn dash block, which is quite an easy sew. What you'll see on the table in front of me here is 2 each of our background and medium fabric in a bigger square, 4 each of our medium and background fabric in rectangles, and 1 last background square which will create the center of our block. We're going to begin by making the half square triangles that go in the corners of this block, and to do that we're going to take the 2 background squares here and draw a diagonal line from corner to corner in one direction. We're then going to match that up right sides together with our medium print fabric, take it to our machine, and you guessed it, stitch 1/4 inch on each side of the drawn line. Now that we've stitched on each side of our drawn line, I just like to give these a quick press to set those stitches before taking them to the cutting mat and cutting them in half along that drawn line. If you use a heat erase pen, maybe you want to skip that step, or you could still do it as it's easy to find the diagonal again to cut these in half. We're then going to press all of these to the darker of the 2 fabrics. As I've said in previous videos, I do prefer to trim my half square triangles 2 at a time, and that's just because I don't like taking forever to do anything, and when something becomes monotonous or boring to me, I don't want to do it anymore. So for a quick and easy 2 at a time method, I simply make sure that that middle seam is nested really nice and snugly. I then take a square ruler so that I can use the diagonal line that's marked on there to place on the stitching line of my block. I then make sure that I have enough fabric outside the required trim down measurement on all 4 sides before trimming the first 2 sides. We then very gingerly rotate that block around. You can use a rotating mat if that's what you want, but I just find it's easier to switch it around with my fingers. You then line up your required trim down measurement on those freshly cut sides and trim the last 2 sides, and you have perfect half square triangle units. We'll do that again with the other 2, and then we'll move on to our next step. We'll now grab our rectangles, and we're simply sewing these together with a straight seam in sets of 2. If you are using a directional fabric, hopefully you cut that out with it in mind, knowing that 2 of these will go horizontally and 2 will go vertically. I'm pretty sure that I did do that, but let's see what happens. So take your 4 each of your background and medium rectangles and simply sew them together in set of 2. Now that we've sewn all 4 of those units together, we simply need to just clip them apart and press them towards the darker of the 2 fabrics. We now will have all of the pieces we need to put this block together, and once you lay it out as per the pattern and the little inset in the top left hand corner there, you will see that this goes together as a 9 patch. Now you can start by sewing the columns first or the rows, and I like to sew the 3 rows first by first taking them to the machine and sewing all of the vertical seams and finishing by doing the horizontal seams. So we'll go through that, and then when we get to it, I'll tell you how I've pressed them. So you would have seen there that I now have all of our vertical seams sewn, and I've kind of kept it in the order that it goes. So with those done, we now need to press this. We're going to press in towards the bar blocks on the top and the bottom row. You may have a tendency to want to press out to the corners because that's what we would normally do if the corners were solid. But we're going to press in towards those bar blocks in this top and bottom row, and we're going to press out from the center, so again towards the bar blocks on the middle row. When we come to do our horizontal seams, this will allow us to nest everything nice and snugly. We're now ready to do the first of our horizontal seams, and because of the way we pressed towards our bar blocks in all instances, those middle seams will nest. I like to secure the start and the end of this seam also, and if we've had any stretch or change in size to our blocks and one side of this is larger than the other, you place that side down towards your feed dogs and they will actually just help ease that little bit of fabric in. When you're stitching, of course, try not to stretch anything. So we'll do the first of our horizontal seams, and once again press in towards the center or towards the bar blocks. We'll then attach the other row, press the same way, and our block for this week is done. We'll just press this final seam now, and as I said before, the block for this week is done. The churn dash is a very traditional quilt block, and as you've seen throughout this video, is very simple to make. Stay towards the end and I have some optional layouts for you. As this was a shorter video, I thought that I would put some layouts together for you using the same fabrics as I did in my block, but you could do this as scrappy as you like. Here you've got just a straight 3x3 grid laid out, and if you look on the pattern, Pat actually has that for you as well, but she has got the other half of the half square triangles in a different fabric to create interest once all the blocks come together. If you don't want to match up all those seams, you can use sashing as shown in this example. I've also added a square and a square block as cornerstones in a different fabric. You could also, and I really like the way this looks, use an on-point setting. I just really like the way that the churn dash looks when it is set on point. So for this you would obviously need setting triangles, which there are a million resources online which will tell you what size and how to cut those so that you can ensure that your edges are not on the bias. So there's my 3 optional layouts for you, and hopefully you can sew one of those up. Well, that's it for another week, folks, and as always, I really love if you could like, share, subscribe. And if you subscribe, well, if you don't, I don't know why, but when you do subscribe, not if, make sure you click that little bell and you'll be notified of all my upcoming videos. As always, Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again next week. Bye for now.